October 7th, 2017 is an important day in Rick and Morty fandom, as it was the day McDonald's re-released their promotional Szechuan sauce for, at the time, one day only. Rick and Morty co-creator Justin Roiland's love for their Szechuan sauce that was used to promote the Disney animated movie Mulan back in 1998 had been a long-running joke in the show's writer's room, so it was no surprise that it appeared as a joke in the show's Season 3 premiere. Fans quickly campaigned for McDonald's to re-release the sauce, and the fast food chain announced that they would do just that, with the sauce returning to McDonald's restaurants across the US. But McDonald's quickly got more than they bargained for, as they were overwhelmed by Rick and Morty fans and quickly sold out. This led to a huge backlash online, with Rick and Morty fans quick to show their frustration, and police were even called to some restaurants, causing McDonald's to release an official apology online. But how does an animated show about a twisted grandfather and his meek grandson who go on a series of surreal and bizarre interdimensional adventures become so huge? How did it become so big that it became the most popular comedy series among fans in 2017, beating out the likes of Modern Family and Big Bang Theory? And how did it draw such a large fan base, one powerful enough to force one of the biggest companies in the world to apologize to them? To understand how Rick and Morty became such a fan favorite, we have to look back at the story of the show's co-creators, Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon. The show's co-creator and voice actor for both Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, was born in Manteca, California on the 21st of February, 1980. Roiland had a burning need to express his creativity and managed to get the opportunity during his college years when he first met Savan Najarian and Abed Geith. The three of them quickly became friends before becoming collaborators, with the trio working on a number of comedic projects together using a mix of zany animation and offbeat humor. Looking back on the early days, the trio said that they all spoke a shared comedic language and that they were all reading from the same page, which became essential for them to continue churning out content.
When I met them, it was like a kindred spirit kind of thing, and we all just wanted to make funny stuff.
As well as making a stream of sketches, they even started making advertisements for local CD shops, and in this content you can start to see the seeds of the Rick and Morty style being planted. But seeing as these were the days before the likes of YouTube, they were making content without an audience, and although Central Valley, California might be in the same state as Hollywood, they were miles apart in terms of the entertainment industry. So despite the fact that they had been working together making sketches for only a matter of months, Roiland convinced his friends to move to the bustling and vibrant city of Los Angeles. This is where Roiland and company would find their audience. Knowing that they were looking for a platform to display their content, a friend recommended they check out Channel 101. Channel 101 is a non-profit site that screens monthly TV shows, allowing audiences and judges to pick which submitted shows should produce more videos and which should not. At the time, Channel 101 were looking for 5-minute television pilot submissions and would accept entries from all over the world in any kind of genre. But the most important aspect of Channel 101 was their co-founder, Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was here where his love of comedy and storytelling fueled him to start performing in a number of comedy workshops. During these workshops, he met collaborator Rob Schraub, and the two worked on improv and sketches together, with the two melding together due to their love of pop culture and meta humor. On the side, Schraub was working on a comic book, Scud the Disposable Assassin, and decided to move to LA to try and turn it into a movie, taking Harmon along with him. During their time in LA, Harmon and Schraub wrote a number of feature film scripts, which, frustratingly for the duo, went nowhere.
It's easy to sign contracts and it's easy to get meetings, it's easy to be the flavor of the day, it's not so easy to actually get a career going.
Despite perhaps being somewhat disheartened, in a bid to prevent their careers dwindling, Harmon and Schraub decided to try and make their own luck, and again began creating their own content, shooting their own comedic mini-movies on a monthly basis. This soon birthed Channel 101. On Channel 101, Justin Roiland quickly came to Dan Harmon's attention after Roiland and his buddies submitted a sketch which Harmon says blew audiences away.
Hello there, I'm Poopy Butthole Pooerson. Oh, you can call me Dirty Wet Poopy, Poopy Sloppy Pooerhole.
It quickly became apparent, the more content Roiland started to post, that he had a distinct voice and wasn't afraid to make shocking comedy that might not appeal to the masses, but to at least a distinct group of fans. Roiland quickly became addicted to the process of making content and having it seen by audiences around the world.
The thing we look forward to every month was that rush and hearing the audience react to something you made. It was like a high.
On a monthly basis, Roiland's small animation team would meet up after work and pump out more animation scripts, ones that traumatized fans but were absolutely loved by the panel. In these early animations, you could quickly see the foundations of Rick and Morty, but at this point, Harmon and Roiland were yet to work together directly. But that all changed after Roiland posted the animation work House of Cosby's, which quickly became the catalyst for both Roiland and Harmon to collaborate. They were already fans of each other's work, so it had felt inevitable. But most importantly, they were now making their own videos, and although they never believed it would go anywhere, they kept on making them and making art that was true to them. While the number of these animated works set the groundwork for Rick and Morty, it was definitely Roiland's next piece that brought the characters to life. The real animated adventures of Doc and Marty, a dark parody, of course, of Back to the Future. It was crude and vulgar, but it also drew its own cult following and gained Roiland even more attention. Most importantly though, as Roiland was working on the sound editing, he quickly fell in love with the characters' voices and started using them constantly in his other animated works.
You know what she said to me?
Oh, Reggie, what'd she say, man?
Tell her what she said. Mitchell, I'm trying to do science in the basement, Mitchell.
Although the characters had now been born, it would still be another 7 years before they eventually got their own show, with both Roiland and Harmon going down different career paths. Roiland's career was pretty conventional, with him working as a writer and voice actor on a number of shows, such as Fishhooks and Adventure Time. Dan Harmon's career was somewhat more tumultuous. Harmon started to develop shows such as The Sarah Silverman Show and Heat Vision and Jack, and also had some writing work on the likes of Kung Fu Panda and Monster House. But it was of course his time as showrunner on the show Community that is the most notable. Community first aired in 2009, and despite being perpetually on the verge of cancellation, the show became somewhat of a sleeper hit, gathering a hardcore following, not too dissimilar to the fans of Rick and Morty, and has since found new audiences since its arrival on streaming services such as Netflix and Hulu. Community was well known and liked for its offbeat characters, eccentric storylines, and numerous pop culture references, but it would always have heartwarming principles and a lesson to be learned by the end. It was also during this time on Community that Harmon would perfect his story circle technique, a distilled version of Joseph Campbell's structure of the monomyth. In essence, it can be stripped down to these few steps. We meet a character, they have a goal, they enter a new environment, they adapt to that environment, their goal is achieved, but some problem or issue arises, they leave this environment and change as a result. This is basically Jeff Winger's arc on the show, but not only was his technique used in Community, it is often seen in Rick and Morty. But all of this came crashing down for Harmon in one swift moment. After season 3 wrapped, a 4th season was confirmed by the studio, but it was also announced that Dan Harmon would not be returning as showrunner. During his time on Community, Harmon had been battling many demons, including alcoholism, and was deemed a disruptive person by the studio, with rumors suggesting that he would turn up late to work, become a nuisance to those around him, fall asleep on the job, and switch between being a procrastinator and a perfectionist in a moment. He also became embroiled in a number of different scandals, one of which included a feud with one of the show's stars, Chevy Chase. After his dismissal, he was eventually brought back for season 5 after the 4th season faltered, but it was also this initial dismissal that proved vital for Rick and Morty. Dan Harmon's career might have been badly wounded, but it was by no means dead. Pretty soon after he was fired from Community, he was approached by Adult Swim, who asked him to create an animated show idea for them. When it came down to who could have a new and original idea, Harmon had one name in mind, Justin Roiland, which, I mean, obviously that's what this whole video's about. When Harmon asked Roiland if he had any ideas or concepts to pitch to Adult Swim, Roiland brought up the topic of the Doc and Marty characters he had invented in the short. From there, an animatic was created and pitched involving a revised idea with the slightly altered characters of Rick and Morty. Overall, it was well received, and there were a number of positive notes, but there was one big red flag that the network took issue with.
By the way, I think we should cast Morty. I don't think Justin should do both voices.
Creative director at Adult Swim, Mike Lazo, said that while the character of Morty was funny in a short, he didn't believe the character's meekness and lack of fight back would have the longevity for multiple seasons, as people would get tired of the character.
I just felt, wow, I don't like Morty. I really like Rick, but while Morty's funny for a couple minutes, I'm gonna get really tired of this.
This quickly caused panic for Roiland, as one of the biggest factors that led this idea to work was the fact that the two characters, both voiced by Roiland, would riff off each other. Fearing that they would reach no resolution, Harmon thought it best to get on the phone with Lazo and talk it over. It was in this conversation where they got to the meat of Lazo's issue with Morty, that the character needed to be less of a punching bag.
I made a dinosaur!
You made a dinosaur!
Oh, I made a dinosaur!
Oh, Morty, what did you think was gonna happen, Morty? That thing makes dinosaurs when you touch it, Morty!
It was here that Roiland asked for a second crack at the character, and Lazo quickly gave him the go-ahead. So as Roiland workshopped the character, Harmon sent Roiland paragraphs of how they needed to showcase Morty standing up to Rick, something which didn't happen once in the initial script. One scene used to showcase this was Rick and Morty in a hover car, with Rick flying drunk and threatening to detonate a neutron bomb, with Morty stopping him and taking control. Just like that, the Rick and Morty train was in motion, and it was actually this near disaster that helped them on their way to becoming so successful.
Morty, to me, is one of the deepest characters in the show now because he has to deal with the most, and he, in essence, is the audience. You know, when I watch Rick and Morty, I am Morty.
As soon as the show was officially sold to Adult Swim, Roiland and Harmon started working on the pilot script the very same day, sitting on the floor with their laptops hashing it out. The pair knew that, with Harmon now back on Community, time was of the essence and they wouldn't be able to have as much freedom to work on Rick and Morty as they would have wanted. In a lightning-in-a-bottle moment, they finished the pilot in 6 hours. Despite there being a number of factors going for it, no one, including Harmon and Roiland, believed that Rick and Morty would be as popular as it is today, and no one could have anticipated their success. But it quickly became a hit, not only being one of the biggest animated shows in the world, but one of the biggest comedy series in general. As season 1 became huge, Harmon and Roiland quickly found themselves under more pressure to deliver with season 2, and they found they were constantly in a battle to raise the stakes. They decided to go big right off the bat in the season 2 premiere, A Rickle in Time, a complicated and deep episode that they both admit nearly broke them. Despite both Harmon and Roiland believing that it was one of their worst episodes, it was lapped up by the fans and quickly set the bar for the episodes and stories to follow. Together, the dynamic duo of Roiland and Harmon continued to raise the stakes and elevate the content, even if that meant turning one of their lead characters into a pickle.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Despite being a somewhat unconventional duo, they managed to complement each other well. Working together, Harmon could refine and hone Roiland's vision and fine-tune it for the masses. But together, they could also make jokes that would genuinely make them laugh and write stories that would really make them cry, and their relationship became vital to the show's success. The weird ideas and bold concepts are mostly Roiland's, with the man even proclaiming himself as the Jim Henson type. Harmon is somewhat the opposite. With a never-ending quest for perfectionism, he would scale back Roiland's ideas and boil them down into a more conventional story arc. A perfect example of their dynamic was Harmon convincing Roiland to perform while drunk to get a more sincere performance, and Roiland admittedly seemed to relish this opportunity.
This is my 4th shot. I'm definitely probably gonna be in the pocket.
after this.
Despite their differences, the duo see eye to eye a lot of the time and have a strong working dynamic, with them only ever having a minor tiff over a joke or tonal point. But when it comes to what really matters for the show and its trajectory, they often come to a quick agreement. Their dynamic can even be seen in the characters of Rick and Morty, although they are of course much more exaggerated. You can see pieces of Roiland in Morty with all of his eccentricities and bizarre concepts, but at the core there is also that childlike naivete and optimism. Harmon, meanwhile, takes the form of Rick, someone who is battling against the darkness and an existential crisis, with Roiland admitting there is a lot of Harmon in Rick, saying he would even call Harmon Rick in the writer's room. Harmon's battle against his demons is still an ongoing issue, and one that is part of the reason there has been gaps between seasons. But his standards of never settling for good enough is what helps drive the show to be the best it can be. Despite the duo combating against these pressures, they have managed to keep the show consistently strong.
The best thing about it is that it proves a certain religion right, which is be yourself, work with your friends, don't tell jokes that don't make you laugh, don't tell stories that don't make you cry, and everything else is going to come out in the wash.
But a fundamental part of what makes the show so good, a part that we have admittedly not talked about enough, is the show's art directors. Harmon was quick to acknowledge the importance of the show's art directors and the incredible work they bring to the table, each bringing their own personality and flourishes to the episodes they work on and making them all a little bit different. They are the ones who are able to almost flawlessly execute Roiland and Harmon's intricate vision. In all stages, the enthusiasm, love, and care that go into the show pays off, and it is one of the reasons it has become so beloved by the fans and one of the biggest shows on the planet. At its peak in 2017, there was a genuine concern that Rick and Morty wouldn't continue onwards. The execs at Adult Swim, however, saw it differently, knowing it would have the legs to continue on, and they soon ordered a whopping 70 more episodes in 2018. With only season 4 being released since this announcement, we are by no means coming to the end of Rick and Morty.